I'm delighted to host this incredible panel, and I want to begin by extending a very warm welcome to Her Excellency, the Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, artist and activist Miley Cyrus, co-founder and CEO of Global Citizen Hugh. Good to see you all, and thanks so much for joining us. Madam Prime Minister, I'd like to begin with you. Norway has been leading vaccine research and development for years. And from your point of view, from the discussions that you're privy to, where do we stand right now with regards to the development of a vaccine for COVID? What are you hearing?
Well, the most important thing is that there is a lot of good projects on its way. There's a lot of the work that's been done through different initiatives, but especially through the CEPI, the Alliance for Vaccine Development, has many a lot of candidates. We don't really know which one will be the best, and probably be different vaccines. But now our policy part is now to also focus on how do we distribute, how do we make sure that this vaccine, when ready, is fairly distributed throughout the world. We believe that, of course, the promise of leave no one behind, which is below all of the Sustainable Development Goals, should lead us also to make sure that we are on the vaccine as making sure that those who are the most need for a vaccine gets it wherever you are living in the world. And as part of the global goal, United for Our Future, Norway supports, of course, the work of the ACT Accelerator. And we know that the time is of essence. If we are not investing today, if we don't have the tests, if we don't have treatments and vaccines in a record time that we are needing them, the pandemic will be even bigger. And we have to stop the pandemic everywhere because it is a global crisis. And that's why we also have said that the Gavi COVAX AMC was established to assure lower and lower income countries will have access to the COVID-19 at affordable prices. And I'm pleased to pledge $10 million to the Gavi COVAX AMC now as the first building block in the global COVID-19 vaccine procurement facility, on the top of the rest that Norway has done to make sure that there are produced vaccines.
That's amazing, and congratulations for doing that. We do need more countries, more governments, more leaders like you taking that big step to help find this vaccine and to make sure it reaches the right people. Hugh, one quick question for you. When we talk about pledges and raising funds, one question that comes up often is that of accountability. How are these pledges tracked?
So Global Citizen has on our staff and in our volunteer base a full-time impact and accountability team. And that team is dedicated to tracking every single commitment made by either a world leader or a philanthropist or a private sector leader in response to our campaign, from promise right through to delivery and measuring the impact. And we maintain regular contact with the decision makers on the progress that's been made. We know that sometimes we have to hold feet to the fire to make sure that people follow through on their commitments. We've only had to do that on very rare occasions. Most world leaders, thankfully, when they make a commitment, they're proud to follow through on it. Occasionally you have a change in government or you have an external circumstance that leads to a new political environment, and then you need to have a new conversation. But we also employ a third-party validation system to measure the impact via what we call a lives set to be affected standard, outlining how policy and financial commitments translate into real lives impacted as a result of our campaigns. For example, when a world leader makes a multi-million-dollar pledge, we follow that pledge dollar for dollar right down to the life where it's impacted the geography, the project, and how ultimately that benefited that person and that community.
I want to turn to Miley next. And Miley, you've been really vocal in the last couple of days and weeks, calling on leaders to pledge for this campaign. Why this campaign? Why are you throwing your support behind this campaign?
I've been really passionate about justice and equality. And this campaign is all about making sure that everyone everywhere has access to the tools and solutions to end COVID-19. And I knew that I had to get involved, and I wanted to use my platform as an artist to do my part in helping raise the funding needed for testing, treatments, and vaccines. And social media can be an amazing tool to connect us around the world and give us, the power to have people like world leaders hear our voices. And as an artist that's very connected to my fans, I knew that they wanted a way to make a difference. And so urging them to take action and call on world leaders and decision makers, especially in a time like this, has made a very impactful, huge difference. So I'm honored to work alongside Global Citizen and their goal.
Madam Prime Minister, you talked about what's really important now is to make sure that medicines or a vaccine reaches people who need it the most. How can you ensure that the medicines actually reach people who need it the most, regardless of cost, regardless of which company has made it, and regardless of which country makes the vaccine first?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that we work together between countries to make sure that there is a system of procurement and financing that makes it possible for poorer countries to access the vaccine in an affordable way. Then, of course, we have a long-standing operation around Gavi of, making sure that the vaccine comes to the right places. This is why we have these great numbers that we have seen on fewer deaths among small children, because we are vaccinating much more today, because we put up an infrastructure through Gavi that makes this function. And when you work with a combination of Gavi and national governments, I think we have a very good way of dealing with the distribution of vaccines. But of course, we need to get up the money, and that's why we are pledging more money for the Gavi functions. And the next thing we also need to make sure is that other countries are participating in this, because we will not be able to deliver vaccines to the poorest in the poorest countries without the poor countries getting more help to buy them.
As you said, Miley, everyone is affected by this. And this is something that cuts across generations as well, not just different races or communities. How can people in your generation really step up and take action and make a difference? What can they actually do about it?
My generation is hungry for change and is leading that charge in many ways. And I've just been a student over the last few months, and especially over the last few weeks in my home country. I've been a student of these organizers and being able to learn and educate myself, which that's kind of what my time is filled with at this moment, even through Global Citizen, just educating myself. And I think that's the first step to making change. And for myself, and only speaking of myself, is I've really spent the last few weeks just getting educated. But I do know that my generation is hungry for change and is leading the charge for the progress in many ways. And one way is that young people are using their voices every day to demand that change. And especially now in this activism, even though changes take time, we want it to lead to lasting change. And something that has been kind of in my mind was, wanting to go back to normal, but this new normal of, we don't want to go back to the way things were before. We want to go to a more improved, inspired way of life. And so I'm just honored to team up with Global Citizen now, but then also for the future. And again, just educating myself and encouraging my fans to do the same.
On that note, I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Miley, and thank you, Hugh.